It happened when I was 20. We were blindfolded. It was dark. Whoever did this knew what they were doing, so we never saw their faces. You know, I could still hear their voices right now. But there were a lot of people coming and going during the night, and so I think I get it why the police never made any headway. That process at the time, that rape kit, we had already been up for 36 hours. We had been, you know, kidnapped and kept all night into the next day. So traumatized already, and you know, and so injured and just so tired and so stunned that the whole rape kit process is a whole nother process that, you know, the common average person doesn't even think about. It's horrible. I mean, I've heard it referred to as, it's like you're being victimized again. The last thing you want is for anybody to look at you or touch you. You know, I mean, it's horrible. I think that process has gotten better now, but still it can't be 100% better because it's just the nature of the beast. It's a terrible thing to go through. I went to Kentucky 2, maybe 3 times in the first year to look at mugshots, but to no avail. You know, in my mind back then, they were still investigating. It was still I thought it was an active case. That's another thing, it just goes to show you, you can't really assume anything. In about 2017, when I went to Julie Valentine Center and spoke with Shauna, who's the CEO, the director, explained to her my story and that I had become interested in finding out about rape kits. Around that time frame that Kentucky was working to clear their backlog. So that was my first interest, or what piqued my interest of, okay, whatever happened to my kit, our kits. So I called an investigator with the Louisville Police Department. After several months, he wrote me back and said he was sorry to say that our kits had been destroyed, actually about 18 months after the crime took place. So I was devastated. I felt like really it just opened up a whole nother bad chapter in my life where I've gone into all this trouble to try to find out what happened and where my kits were, and then I relearned about I got the case file, so of my own case, which was real strange. I had never seen it, read it. It has that, it's called a property and evidence slip. We see them all the time in law enforcement work now. I just remember that really brought it back to me. There's a little tag and with my name on it and my friend's name. So a lot of wounds were opened back up. But then when I found out the kits had been destroyed, you know, it really put me on a mission. And I was thinking of my 2 daughters, and I thought, you know, this can't continue to happen where kits are destroyed or don't even know where they are. They asked me to come testify in Columbia before the legislature, both the judiciary and the House committees, and explain my story and why I felt like it was important that we have this system implemented. There's no way to track where these kits were. So that was my motive and our motive to get this thing pushed through. And sure enough, we had bipartisan support. It was a real, very stressful time for me going down there and telling total strangers what had happened to us. But like I said, the drive to make sure this didn't keep happening. Here, in my case, it had been 40 years, and the realization that kits are still not accounted for and are being destroyed, I just couldn't stand it. I have 2 daughters, and I thought, this is ridiculous. Every one of us, if we think about it, we know someone that has been affected, whether it's a direct family member or a friend or someone you work with or someone you go to church with. And people need to realize that. That's the point in all of this, is you shouldn't have to keep working so hard after you've been through all that. You shouldn't have to keep working so hard to find out what is going on with your case. You know, if you've been burglarized or you've been a victim of a car accident, or, you know, it's easier to find out what's going on than a situation like this. And we're trying to make that easier and more accessible. You know, that's the whole point. It's just like if you want to track a package on Amazon. I know they're a private company and they could afford it, but think of how wonderful that is to know when your, you know, present is coming or being delivered. And that's just a small little, it just makes you think about how we've progressed as society and how important it is to know. And you put that on with something like this, where you're really dealing with someone that's been mentally and physically abused, and just what a relief it would be and helpful to know, okay, at least I know now it's going to take a year, or at least I know there's not enough DNA to weren't able to collect enough. But knowing nothing is the worst thing, and not knowing who to talk to get nothing, you know, is beating your head against the wall. It's so, I just think this, to me, I think this is so necessary and will make life a lot easier for a lot of people. The language in the bill states that there is a time frame for SLED to get this system up and running, find funding, and to find a vendor for the actual software. And so here we are, and we've just gotten an update recently from SLED that they still hope the system will be implemented this calendar year. What I've learned from all this is how important it is to stay involved and follow up with your legislators. If you feel strongly about something, just don't assume it's going to automatically happen. I can't help but feel like this hasn't been a huge priority of theirs. But you know, I know they were looking for software vendors. I know they were trying to get funding. I know there was having enough staff in the forensics area of SLED to actually test the kits so they can be marked and put in the system. What's mostly frustrating is this was a unanimous bill, passed unanimously, and obviously I thought it was going to be in place sooner. It certainly would be a helpful tool for prosecutors because they're in the same boat, and we all know law enforcement's overwhelmed. They can't possibly keep up with what's going on in every single case they've got. And they don't, you know, they don't have time to respond to however many victims calling them. I mean, it's not that maybe they want to, but they may not have the time. I'm not in the drug unit, but I do know a lot of cases involve drugs. We do have access to those drug labs, and it's a few clicks away. To me, that benefit, I can't even imagine us not having access to that. So I sort of liken that to this, that it is so important, not just for the prosecution, but also for defense. It also allows people not to be charged. You know, it helps people who say they're not guilty. The next step is to, first of all, stay true to their word, and when the tracking system's implemented, keep it current. You know, I have concerns about that. So I'm not going anywhere because I want to make sure not only is it implemented, that I want to make sure it's done correctly and that it's kept updated. But then the next step is to test all kits, because when this all started several years ago, there were thousands and thousands and thousands of untested kits, and that many of them were also unaccounted for. I mean, who were those people? You know? So I think it's pretty frightening. I think that tells you right there that we've got it's a huge issue. And if you talk to those people, I can pretty much guarantee you they don't know what to do, who to talk to. If someone needs assistance or knows someone that needs assistance, definitely recommend reaching out to the Julie Valentine Center. It's 100% free services to victims and their families. It's an incredible organization. I've been involved with them since day one on this, since I've started down this road of telling my story and then following through on this legislation. And that's why I decided to become a board member, because I think the work they do it's not being done by anyone else in Greenville County. It's not going to happen overnight, the healing process. I mean, it's just incredible how long it takes. It took a lifetime for me, basically. I would encourage your viewers, like I said, chances are they know someone who's been affected by sex assault, child abuse, sex assault. I would encourage people to reach out to their legislators and to stay tuned. And if you don't keep hearing things about this, feel free to reach out to me, the Julie Valentine Center, you guys, and say, hey, what about this legislation? What's happening? We can't do it by ourselves. We have to have the public's input, and we have to have the public's help. I think you can't just sit around and wait. You have to stay involved.